2020 wasn't exactly an ideal year. So in this video, we're gonna go through 5 ways to help you get through 2021. And in order to do that, in order to look forward, we need to look at the past. So we're gonna quickly run through the last 5 years of my life and help glean some information on what I've learned over those past 5 years to help us go into this new year. Let's jump in. Here we are, 2016 in Alberta, Canada, and I had just lost my job for the second time in less than 12 months. A few months later, my wife graduated from university, and sure enough, my wife actually found a job many, many miles away, right here in California. And so we packed our bags and we moved to California. 2017 was a very different year. That year, my wife and I saved a lot. We worked hard and we were able to pay off all our student loans and had essentially no debt. And so to reward ourselves, that was kind of the year of travel for us. We went to San Francisco, we went to Monterey Bay, we did a little bed and breakfast that was in these really cool, repurposed rail cars. And that summer, we decided to branch out and visit some of her family in France. So we spent almost 2 weeks in Iceland and France, which was incredible. And then we ended that year celebrating Christmas back in Canada with her family. So 2017 was really a year of travel for us and a lot of fun. But it was also kind of the calm before the storm. 2018. This was one of the hardest years. I was going through a lot in my personal life, and it almost caused the end of our marriage. We had only been married for, less than 4 years. And we came to a really crucial spot in our relationship. But this was also a year of self-improvement, where I worked really hard to combat those things that I was dealing with and really improve myself, to work on self-care and the struggles that I was going through. And through a lot of time and effort and a lot of counseling, my wife and I chose to stick together. And that was probably one of the biggest impacts of my life, even still to this day, is going through that hardship of 2018. And I wish I could say that 2018 ended there on a high note. My wife and I got back together and things were great and our relationship was stronger than ever. That's true, but 2018 was also the year, later in that year, that my wife and I bought our first house. And 3 months later, dropped a tree on it. A 60-foot pine tree that literally cut our house in half. Yeah, that happened. That is our house. Which brings us to 2019. Obviously, we couldn't live in our house. It was cut in half. But luckily, some friends of ours had an open space for us. It was a small little, I don't even want to call it a bachelor's suite, attached to their garage. They offered it to us as insurance, and the construction company was essentially rebuilding our house. They were incredibly nice people. I cannot begin to explain how blessed we were to be able to have that situation. Yes, it was a small place, but the people that we were around made it so much better. It caused that relationship to grow stronger. It caused exponential growth between my wife and I, being in such a confined space with our dog and our cat and what little things we could put in there. That was our situation for almost an entire year as we were dealing with insurance and construction and the devastation of losing a house and seeing how slowly it took to rebuild. Coupled with the fact that during the construction process, I got a bill from our lovely electric company of $12,000. I called the electric company, we worked out a payment plan, but there was a few times where I had to make a large contribution to that $12,000 while insurance and the construction company fought amongst themselves to decide who was going to pay for this, who was at fault. before ultimately reimbursing me, thank goodness, and taking care of that. During this time, my wife and I wanted to start a family. I'm sure the stress of the entire situation led to the fact that we were unable to make that happen. We went to doctors who told us, well, there's nothing wrong with you, you're fine, just keep waiting. But 2019 wasn't all that bad. We did end up finally being able to move back into our house towards the end of 2019. And not only that, but I got a promotion at work, which was huge for me because that allowed us to kind of recoup some of the money that we had lost going through a house rebuild, which brings us to 2020. I don't think I need to tell you how weird of a year 2020 was. My wife and I ended up going to Belize with the school that she worked at, and partnered with a nonprofit organization there and did a lot of really cool work down there. This was just before the lockdown happened, and we actually had to cut that trip short and get on the next plane back to the United States. And there was a long time of uncertainty after we got back. We didn't really know what was going on. We had been kind of out of the loop for a little bit, but coming back to the US was a shock to us. The whole pandemic and the lockdown. Luckily, my company was flexible enough to allow me to work from home, and I was able to keep my job. And so what did we resort to in this time of living at home? Projects. I kind of took up woodworking and made some spice racks for our kitchen. We made an end table / coffee table / filing cabinet type thing for our bedroom. And I ended up making this, a Murphy bed that folds down into a full queen size bed and allows us to save space and for me to record here. But the biggest part of 2020 was that my wife got pregnant. And in less than 2 months, we're expecting that baby girl to come into this world now, which is terrifying, especially after 2020 and all of this mess that it's become, but also incredibly exciting. So now what? How do we take these 5 years and cram them into 5 things that will help you get through 2021? Number 1, be smart with your money. There are going to be times that you have no idea what's going to go on. You may lose your job. You may have an unexpected and large expense. So be wise with your money. Save up an emergency fund so you can go through those times and not have to rely on credit cards and getting further into debt. I can tell you from my last 5 years, if my wife and I had not been as conscientious of maintaining an emergency fund, those last 5 years would have been much harder. Number 2, be flexible. It is great to have a plan. I encourage everyone to have a plan for their life, for their year, for their month, for their week, for their day. But understand that plans can fall through and you need to be able to roll with those punches. And coupled very closely with that, asking for help. You are no less of a person to ask someone for help. So get comfortable and be more okay with reaching out to someone. Hey, I'm struggling with this aspect of my personal life and I don't know what to do. What would you do in this scenario? Gaining wisdom from other people is a fantastic way to grow as a person. Number 3, self-improvement. I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to grow as a person. To not allow yourself to plateau or stagnate. I think that was the main issue that I was facing in 2018, is that I plateaued in my self-improvement. I allowed myself to get to a point where I thought, I'm okay here. I don't need to work on myself anymore. And that caused a lot of problems in my personal life and in my relationship. And this ties very closely with number 4, which is practice self-care. We all have days, weeks, months where we're just not ourselves, where you get down in a slump and you're not quite sure how to get out. And it's in these times that it's really important to take care of yourself. Go outside, get some fresh air, go for a walk, stay hydrated, eat healthy meals, get proper rest. And I think it's really important during this time also to practice grace. And that's grace for yourself. Realize that you're not going to get everything perfect. You're not going to get it right every time. And to be able to forgive yourself and to say, I messed up today, but I recognize that and tomorrow's going to be different. And this brings us to our final tip. Number 5, which is patience. Something that I've learned over these past 5 years and just reflecting was nothing happened quickly. Bad situations that I thought would never end did end. Things take time, whether it's a bad situation or whether it's practicing self-care and forgiving yourself. Again, you're not going to get it right all the time, every time. So be patient with yourself and extend that patience to others. We're all human. Everyone makes mistakes. No one is perfect. And that's where we're going to leave it today. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like and subscribe button. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you on the next one.